Going live. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Ask Me Anything number 14. I'm too far from my mixer. I had to lean forward to drop that track down. I hope you're doing well. This is our show where you can ask me anything you like about recording, the universe, and everything. The answer is 42. I'm turning 42 next week. There you go. I will be the answer. If you do have any questions, all you need to do is put the word question. Just do what words say. Just put question in front. We don't use the form or do anything complicated in this particular show. I just want you to have some fun, have a chat, join in, and if you have anything that you want to know about the world of tomorrow or the world of recording, you can let me know. If you've got a Garageband question, we've got my iPad over here. If you want to ask about Garageband or any apps, I've got my Mac here as well, so I can bring up web pages and show things there. So whatever it is that you want to talk about, we'll talk about it here today. Hello to everyone we've got. We've got Jade and Kim and Nina. We've got all the ladies coming in first. Hello to Saga. We also got Mark is here in the house, and we've got Joe Glenn. Look at that. Of the first 5-6 people I've said hello to, 5 of them are other ladies. Well done. On time. There you go. You're setting the president there. Hello, James. Who have I missed here? Oh, hello, Bear. Ask me anything. Ask me anything. There you go. Axe me anything. About axes? About guitars? Yeah. And hello to you too. The reason I'm doing this show is that we got to the end of an hour last time. We're here for 1 hour today again. Got to the end of an hour and I'd answered about 40% of the questions. So the way it'll work is that this time around I'll get no questions and I'll just be sitting here talking to myself for an hour. But no, not true. I have a heap of stuff that I can actually go into that are in my notes here. So if I don't get any questions that come through from you here live, then I'll jump in and just talk about some of the stuff that's happened through the week. Oh, look, there's a guitar pick stuck to the back of my phone. Always got guitar picks floating around because I'm working on a few new tunes for the happy hour this week. That's what my week's been, has just been catching up. You know, when you have a break. So I had the weekend off and went away with the family. And when I say off, I still did a happy hour show. I still did a Q&A show, but I wasn't doing all the bits in between. And then I got back and had a heap of emails to answer. I had a heap of messages on all the different platforms that I'd been neglecting. So if you've emailed me or messaged me, I should be all caught up. Yesterday I spent many hours and got myself all caught up. So if you've been asking questions and you've been saying, Pete hasn't got back to my Instagram DM, my email, my question on the course, well then I should have by now. Hello, Patrick Chandler, and the Indigo Sunsets are here. We've also got Sean Chandler. Hello to you, and the naughty bastard. How can you make a song in swing time? I can get it to make it work well. I can't get yeah. So swing, if you're not familiar with swing, like if you've got a beat, so the song I was playing there in the intro, this one here, that is a straight beat, yeah? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you wanted to swing something, it's like da 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 da. Let's show you an example, in fact, because I've got my Garageband up here, so I can show you. We'll come in here and we'll create a new project, shall we? We'll go into my ideas folder, and then we'll create a new song. So if I grabbed, say, the drummer. Drummer's an easy one to demonstrate this with. Is it Kyle? No, it's Des. I've been using Des in a recent one. But we'll grab Kyle, because go Kyle. I know some people are not Kyle fans. I'm sick of half pipe though. Let's go Ocean Boulevard. 1, 2, 3, 4. So again, that's a very straight beat. But what we can actually do is does swing does work with your drum. I know it does with drums. Does it work with drummer? We're about to find out. No, I don't think it does. But what we can do is there are swing rhythms down here. How do we swing a drummer? Oh, it's over here. Don't worry. I thought I was going crazy there for a moment. It's down here in the left. So that's the straight beat. If we want to swing it, you can do sort of a 16th note swing, which will just be like on that 16th beat and a very light swing here. So here's what that sounds like. You can make an 8th note. See, we're really swinging it a little bit more. And if you make it heavy, listen to this. Da 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 da. Can you hear the difference between your regular one and back to none? Everything's right on the beat, right on the beat. So, stop you. So that's the main difference here. Now, the cool thing is if you're using drummer, you can do it there. If you're in Garageband, if you're in any other instrument, let's just say you get the real drums here, and I'm in the beat sequencer. We want to be in an acoustic kit. So if we record an acoustic kit like this, we're getting some really interesting effects here as we hit two kicks and snares at the same time. So I'll turn off drummer. So if you've played in a drum beat like that, say, and you're like, oh, I actually wanted to swing that one up. So here's what it sounds like just regularly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Right? So you can actually go in here to your quantization settings, track settings, quantization, and at the moment it's a straight 16th. We can actually make it a swing, and let's just heavy it up. What actually happens here is it changes the location of these notes. I'll show you that again. If we turn it off to none, see how these notes shimmy back to where they came from? As soon as we turn on the quantization, it actually moved those notes. And take a listen now. Do, da, do, da. It swings it up for you. So whatever platform you're using, that's generally how you're going to get yourself a little bit of swing. And remember, it don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. Words to be lived by. Question from Lucas. Just out of curiosity, do you tend to write chord progressions or melodies first? Do you find it easy to come up with a melody once you have the chords? Really good question. It depends. So because I'm an acoustic guitar player by nature, chord progressions generally come first. I'll normally be noodling around on a chord progression. That being said, sometimes I'll just come up with a melody in my head and then I'll play it out either on the guitar or the keyboard, and then that will become like the hook, and then I'm like, how will the words actually work with that? So when I listen to, again, that We Will Rise Together song that I played at the start there, that I'm working on with Emil, as soon as I heard that little bit where it breaks down into the chorus section, I had We Will Rise Together. So because that was more of an electronic song, that's what came first. Normally for me, though, I'll sit down and I'll just be like, okay, G, C, D, A, minor. Okay, there's my chord progression. What melody and therefore what lyrics will fit into that chord progression? So I don't think there's a right way or a wrong way with anything in music, but especially in songwriting, I think it's whatever works for you. So hopefully that gives you some insight there. But what about you folks? Let me know. If you're here live on the chat, what do? Are you melody first, or are you chords and harmony and laying down your bed first? I would love to hear from you. Just enjoy a quick coffee sip from my official Studio Live Today mug, studiolivetoday.com/merch, because why not? Brady says, I have a question. Differences between acoustic and electric guitar. Basically the difference is amplification. So an electric guitar, if you don't plug it into anything, you ain't going to hear it because it's normally a solid body. There are hollow bodied electric guitars and electric acoustic hybrids, but the short answer to this is the difference between electric and acoustic is that an electric guitar you plug in and it sends an electric signal. It has pickups on there. Those pickups actually pick up the vibrations of the strings and send that via a cable into an amplifier, and then without that amplification you're not actually going to hear it. Now these days, of course, you can plug your electric guitar directly into your Mac or your PC or your iPhone or your iPad and use an amp simulator to actually simulate the sound of a real amplifier. So don't actually need to plug it in and wake up the neighbors like Bryan Adams did in 1989. You can actually just plug it in and use an amp simulator. An acoustic guitar, again, because it has a hollow body and the actual resonance comes from within the body of the guitar, then you can play it without any amplification. So that's probably the absolute layperson. I know there's a heap of other nuances and the string types and a bunch of stuff, but that's the basic difference there. Question from Bear. Best way to record guitars, bass in GarageBand. Use the GB amps or mic a real amp. What a good question. And we actually just talked, well, I kind of talked about guitars just then. But yeah, what would I do? Well, here's the thing. Over the last 5 years since I've got back into recording, because amp simulators 5 years and especially 10 years ago were just awful. Like, they just didn't sound like a real guitar amp. And people were right to think that, hey, you shouldn't really you don't have to use an amp simulator because you've got a real amp. Why would you? Why would you not just mic up a real amp? These days, it's kind of flipped around on its head. So what I'll do, mic amp. So I've got a couple of videos I'm going to point you towards. And this will probably show why I don't do it anymore, because you'll see how much more difficult it is. So if you search my name, actually, you don't even have to search my name, just GarageBand mic amp. I'm the first video you'll find there. So recording a real amp in GarageBand for iOS. So you can see there I have my condenser microphone set up, and I have my amp there, just a little Marshall transistor one, not even a valve amp. Then that's the other thing. The sort of tones that you can get with an amp simulator, you can get some pretty high-end stuff compared to what you'll get with an actual amplifier. So unless you've got like $1,000 amp, you're usually going to get a better tone with an amp sim, and it's a heck of a lot easier. So some of the amp sims that I'm really liking these days, it took me forever to get into Tonebridge, but once I'm into it, so there's my recording guitars in Tonebridge. So again, if you type GarageBand, oh my search engine optimization's on point. I'm not even putting my name in here, unless it's because I'm logged in as me. And it's like, Pete, we know you're a narcissist. I'm going to give you results about yourself. But that's like a whole hour where I show recording in Tonebridge and all the bits behind there. And then the other one, this time I will have to go Pete John's guitars. There's one more, this one here, recording guitars in GarageBand, electric and bass. So then that was part of my Complete a Song series that I did 2 years ago. And that's probably the most comprehensive video if you want to see how I actually hook in, use the standard stock GarageBand amp sims, and get some decent tones doing it that way. And there's also acoustic guitar there too, if you're looking for acoustic. So hopefully that helps you out. But yeah, these days, I don't remember the last time I actually plugged in an amp, apart from that one, because that's what I'm using now I'd used for the happy hour last week, and I'm going to use it again for this week's happy hour, because I'm going to be showing how to hook it up. So how I plug my guitar, I'm going to basically put my guitar and mic into that amp, and then send that signal into my mixing desk so that you can hear the actual tone coming out of that, and it'll give me some practice for when I'm out and about. But good question. Thank you for asking it. Hello to anyone else I've missed. Darren Anderson's here in the house. Tom Rochelle, hello to you. Kim Hardin Hudson, hello to you. Hope you are doing well as well. Arnie G is in the house, and guess what? Big news, everyone. Arnie G is being interviewed by Jade Starr coming up next. So 45 minutes away, you can check out Arnie G being interviewed by Jade as part of her How to App series. Which is cool, because I want to hear all about it. I want to hear about, because if you've seen any of Arnie G's videos, so it's Gertrude, by the way. I know you changed your name because I think one of your nieces or nephews, we'll find out all this anyway, couldn't pronounce your name. I certainly couldn't. So Gertrude, and I can't remember your surname because you've been Arnie G for the last few months, and I've completely forgotten. But yes, Gertrude will be on Jade's show coming right up. Which one is better, acoustic or electric? That's like saying you got two children, which one do you like better? So if I had to choose, I'd go acoustic, but that's just because I play acoustic, because I'm an acoustic player. And as I'm getting older, I tend to pick up the acoustic more than the electric. When I was 20, it would be exactly the other way around. In fact, I didn't even own an acoustic guitar until my 21st birthday, when my wonderful wife bought me my first ever acoustic guitar, which I still have and will indeed keep forever. Scrolling on down and seeing, Lucas, have you been able to figure out how to make music in odd time signatures in GarageBand iOS, or is it easier to just record yourself doing 4 bars of 5/4 or something similar? Yeah, the latter. So if you are wondering this, we'll come back over here to my GarageBand. So yeah, if you've been wondering this, that is what I do when I need to make custom time signatures. And again, I have a video about this, so you can search my name, Pete John's custom time signature. You'll find that video. But yeah, I do exactly what you're saying there. So let's just tap the plus button here and just give ourselves some extra bars. Let's say we got 20 bars here. Boom, 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 boom. And so we want some 5/4. I basically create myself my own metronome. So here's how we go. We would go to our drums here, and I'll hit the metronome here to play along with it. But basically this is the first and only time that the metronome will be used. And what I need to do, it takes a little bit of practice to get this down, but I'll come to my drums and I'll record in a 5/4 rhythm. So just a very basic 5/4 rhythm. So we're going to go, right? So let's just hit the record. Actually, what we'll do, take my own advice, track settings, velocity sensitivity off, because we don't want to have like hard hits and soft hits. So let's say we're working on a 5/4 track here, and this is what we can do. We can hit the record button. Oh, we're a bit slow, aren't we? You have to kind of go against the grain. It takes a bit of practice, and you kind of have to ignore that metronome, but once you get a few there, that'll do. So once you get a few there, obviously you can rinse and repeat, because all we really need is those first 5 beats. And what you'll notice here is that in fact, I'll just show you how we do this, because you only really need to do it once and then split it and loop it. So if we split it there, you notice that we're splitting it at a point just after the first bar. That's because we're going to use 5 beats. And if we then loop this out, we see we've got these 20 bars. What we're actually going to get is, instead of 20 bars of 5/4, we're going to get, Pete has to do some quick mathematics. Is it 16 bars of 5/4 instead of 20 bars of 4/5? It looks that way, doesn't it? So yeah, so you see there's the very last bar there, and every split point you can see there, the little split points, they're going to be on the beat sometimes, but sometimes not. And this same method can work for 12/8, 9/8, 7/4, any of those obscure time signatures. You just have to do a bit of mathematics to work out what you can do there. So then all you do is turn off the metronome, and we have our own custom-made metronome. And if you make any mistakes along the way, again, we're very drum-centric today, aren't we? You can come into your quantization, see, it's got swing on. We'll just go straight and 8th note, because we know we're hitting right on the 8th notes anyway. In fact, we're hitting on quarter notes, aren't we? So you can just go quarter notes, because that's all we're hitting on, just for a metronome. And then if we wanted to, we can start building out a wonderful little track. So we'll come over here. Let's just add some keyboard. And then if you were playing along a piano part in here, so. Let's just play this on. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so on and so forth. It's a bit hard to play up over there over my keyboard and everything else, but yeah, then you can get a beautiful 5/4 rhythm. And of course, you don't need to keep this as your drum. You can then program in some drums. Problem is, you can't use things like drummer. You can't use any loops unless you happen to find some cool 5/4 loops and that sort of thing. And things like your tempo won't really be 110, because it's 110 beats per minute at 4/4, which means it would be, someone help me out, having to do a lot of maths. So if it's 5 beats per the one, less or more. Something like that. But hopefully that helps you out. So yeah, totally possible, but not in an automated way. GarageBand doesn't make it easy for you to use those complex time signatures. Yes, I also can't wait for the interview. Been hanging out for that one ever since Jade told me about a couple of weeks ago that Arnie G was coming on the show. I was waiting to listen, because yeah, again, Arnie G is someone who uses GarageBand, creates some epic videos to go along with her music, and has kind of just taken the community by storm. And I'm building it up now, Arnie G, and you're going to be like, Pete, shut up. Do you have to be Pete's friend to get a mod? No. Some of my enemies, some of my sworn enemies are moderators. No. Moderators are just folks who've been around the channel for a long time and have been part of the chat and helped me out. So thank you, by the way. Thank you to Tom, Amarasea, Jade, Scott, Baba, and Sion. I think that's everyone. And apologies if I missed anyone. Scrolling on up. Amarasea says, I tried making the beat sequencer swing, and it was like, well, it sounds cool, but it went completely off the grid, and I wanted to be lazy. Yeah, I think the whole idea of a beat sequencer and a grid is a little bit anti. So I think a beat sequencer great for making straight beats. I don't know if you'd be able to swing up the beat sequencer. Yeah, Sunny G. Yeah, you should get the green screen so you can be in Nashville. That would be cool. Question: what's the best tip to stop overloading GB? Downloaded new Spitfire strings and causing a few problems. Nothing too serious though. Yeah, and it depends on a couple of things. So the tips that I have. So say that you're building up a track like my amazing 5/4 beat here, and then you start adding in some other things, especially if you start using some sort of external instruments. So if we came in here and we went to our external. And, I'll actually put iSymphonic on here because I haven't used it for ages. And people keep, we were having a discussion recently about iSymphonic and the fact that I don't use it. So it's loading up the instrument. So things like this will use a lot of processing power, yeah? And if you start layering up, and especially if you're using a bunch of instances of these, you can start getting some performance issues. So really, the tips are use as few tracks as you can. The more tracks you use, the more processing power. Use as few effects as you can, and maybe use the stock effects. And then when you get to the end, if you want to swap them out for some of those third-party plugin effects, then I'd do it there, because the more third-party plugins you have, that means extra apps are running in the background. So right now, not only is GarageBand running, but now iSymphonic has to run so that I can record in there. And if I came in here and started layering up different ones, if I threw the Hillman piano in here from Cleve Grand, which is a very nice sound. I don't use the Hillman enough. I should play around with that. Then everything you put in here creates more. The other thing that you need to do, or don't need to, but can help, is when you're creating, close all your other apps. So come in here, don't have all this stuff open, don't have your pictures and your things open. Close everything else and just have GarageBand running. You can also go into your settings. I think I showed this the other day in the last show, actually. You can go into your settings and turn off background app refresh. So this means that all of your background apps, and you can turn it back on. So if you've got weather apps and map apps and things that need background app refresh, just turn it off for the meantime. It's just going to save that processing. Every little skerrick of memory and processing power that you can get going into your track means less optimizing performance, less bugs, less crashes, less clicks and pops. So that's another option that you have there. So close all your apps, turn off your background app refresh, try to run as few external apps as possible at the same time, and you should have a better time. You're gonna have a good time with GarageBand. Good time, great taste of GarageBand. Sure, that makes sense. Why not? Let's see. We'll scroll on down and see who we've got. Right. So the question I had a while ago, which is what do you do first? Amaracia says, I usually don't know. I just start making and eventually get somewhere. And that's a good way to go too. Just start. If you don't know where to start, just start. You'll get somewhere. It doesn't really matter where, right? Kim says, I can't afford to be picky, so whatever comes first, I just go with it. Absolutely. And there you go. Jade's stepping in. See, that's why Jade's a moderator, because she does all that stuff for me. She does the shameless self-promotion so that I don't have to, because I'm usually uncomfortable doing that. Mark says I usually have the whole thing in my head and try to reproduce it. That's cool. Yeah, that's another way to go, is to have the whole thing. I must admit, especially as I age, I tend to only have one thing in my head at a time. I was always terrible at multitasking, and now I just can't do it. Darren Anderson, work on guitar and vocals for me, but sometimes a song might come from a beat. Yeah, occasionally there's a beat in my head, and that sort of creates a rhythm, and then that sort of creates the chords around the beat. It's rare. It's usually chord progression, but yeah, that can happen. Joe says same here. It's random. Yeah, and I think there's no right or wrong way, and it can all be a little bit random. Brady says, another question. My dad said an acoustic guitar is more for strumming and electric is more for finger picking. Is it just not normal to strum an electric guitar? Well, yeah, look, both can be used for both. So traditionally, if you think of, the stereotypical electric guitar is more, lead guitar. People think of lead guitar like the shredding that you do on electric guitar. So plugging it in, using a wah pedal or using distortion and like people think Jimi Hendrix, that sort of electric guitar. But electric guitar can also be used for some nice gentle strumming of chords. So you still need to know your chords if you're playing electric, and it can be used for power chords and for distorted chords to sort of sit as a pad underneath a song. So like think Nirvana, think Pearl Jam, or punk music, Green Day, The Offspring, earlier punk, the Sex Pistols. All of those bands use electric guitar. Acoustic, yeah, more traditionally, acoustic is sort of connected with folk music or singer-songwriter music where you are literally strumming a chords, but you can't, like classical guitar is finger picking. So do. So really there's variation. But if you're starting out, I don't know, what do guitar players think? If you're starting out, would you go, like traditionally, people will start with a nylon string acoustic guitar and then usually graduate to sort of a smaller body, depending how old you are when you're starting, but like a electric guitar, like a Squier electric guitar, and then maybe to a steel string acoustic, because you really do need stronger hands and bigger fingers to actually press the steel strings of an acoustic guitar, because the got a lot more a higher action on that, and then sort of the sky's the limit from there. But it depends where you are and what you want to do, and also the sort of music you like, what you like to play. So yeah, there's no right or wrong answers when it comes to this stuff, is my view. Orchestra Eclipse said, when I first started my channel, I ended up dreaming how to mix my covers and replicating it in reality. There you go. Have a dream. I have a dream that I'm going to create some orchestral covers in GarageBand. Hey, Chris. Hope you're doing well. Any tips, tricks on effectively panning to enhance a track? I struggle with getting it to spread out right. Now, yeah, there are different things. So I found some handy things. I must admit, for me, it's mostly trial and error. But there is mixing music, panning. There's some cool like visualizations that show you this sort of thing. I'll see if I can find one here. Basic mix panning, something like this might be a go. Like so. I'll just drop in here. Whoop. So I don't even know what website this is, but whoop, I don't want to sign up to you. I don't even know who you are. Yeah, it didn't. There you go. So we'll just scroll in on this one. Boop, 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 boop. Doop, doop, doop. All right, so if you look at something like this is kind of what you would normally use. Can we scroll in a little more? Enhance, zoom, enhance, zoom, enhance. So something like this, basic mix panning. So vocals, snare, bass, and kick. So generally, we're talking rock songs here in most sort of conventional music. So you'd have your vocals, you've had your snare, you have your bass, and you have your kick drum right up the middle, yeah? You then have for your drums, you'll have your hi-hat on the left, your toms on the right. That can be switched around. There's a whole big debate about which side drums go on. You've then got your overheads, so you want some sort of stereo width with your drums. So you have some overhead drums out here and here. If you've got pads, they're usually like stereo. So if you've got two different pads, you might have one on the left, one on the right. And then if you've got like synths, you might have one on the left, one on the right. With your guitars, it's not even mentioned here for some reason. Apparently guitars don't count. But yeah, guitars are similar to what you'd have here with your synth instruments. Is usually you want some kind of stereo guitar sound, which means you either just use a stereo widener to put the same thing on both sides, or preferably record two guitar parts, pan one hard left, one hard right, and just tweak those up to make them different sounds. And then you get that wall of guitar sound. Or you can go four guitars, one hard left, one hard right, one middle left, one middle right. So those sort of things. And when I searched this out just now, there's a heap of different ideas here. So maybe explore some of these ideas around panning and mixing and where your instruments should pan, and just try some different things. Because what I tend to find is when people are starting out, they're too timid. People don't want to put anything far left or far right because they're like, oh no, it'll sound too wide and too weird. And yeah, that's right if you're unbalanced. But I think the key thing about mixing is, remember, people are usually listening and they want a balanced experience. Things can go to the left and go to the right, but generally you want things to be sitting somewhere in the middle with something going on out on the left and the right hand side. So that's sort of some basic tips there, Chris. But yeah, experiment, trial and error, and see what works for you. And some of the best music has actually been, like if you think of older music, go back to the 60s and 70s. They only had 4 channels and they just had to pan it left or right. So you'd hear old Beatles tunes, the drums are all on the left and the vocals are all on the right. It's very weird if you listen to some of that stuff. And some of the best, like the Beach Boys, they had a whole album. Their Pet Sounds album, the mono version, is literally all in mono. So sometimes we get a bit carried away and we think there has to be this amazing, complex stereo spectrum, when really, if it's a good song recorded well, then it's going to sound good even if it's not even in stereo. Hello, Gary Hubs from work, and hello, Dr. Zorders. I hope you are both doing well. We've got folks saying hello to each other. So Gary comes in and he shuts down the chat. Didn't I do an AMA a few days ago, or was I dreaming? Probably both, but yeah, I did. I said right up the front that I did one 2 days ago, and I got to like half the questions. So I thought I would come back because there always seems to be plenty of questions that kick us off. Stu Cash bass, is that what you start with? You start with the bass and work everything around there. Yeah, I don't tend to. How do I fix my Bluetooth headphones to get rid of delay? What a good question. Unfortunately, the question is not to fix them, because you're basically saying, how do I fix something that has an inherent feature that makes it not good for recording? So here's the problem with any Bluetooth headphones, any wireless anything, to be honest, is that it includes something called latency. Latency, lag, delay, whatever you want to call it. It means that the audio that you're hearing is never happening instantaneously. So there's always a delay, there's always some sort of lag between what you're playing and what you're hearing. Now, that's okay if you're watching a movie or if you're listening to music. In fact, a lot of those will have a video sync delay that they deliberately put on the video. So say you hit play on a video, the reason that your Bluetooth headphones don't sound like half a second out is that there's technology within your devices that's usually smart enough to go, hey, we know that audio is not going to hit you for half a second, so we're going to artificially put a half-second delay on the audio coming back. Now, that doesn't work for producing music because if you're playing along or you're playing guitar or you're singing, then you need that to be instantaneous. You need zero latency or at least very low latency. And unfortunately, the technology, even though it's improved, the Bluetooth technology has not reached a point where it is zero latency. So unfortunately, sad answer is there's no way to fix it apart from a pair of wired headphones. So yeah, if you're producing music, and this isn't really just my opinion, it's kind of the opinion of anyone who's producing music, you can do it. People have done it. People have used their AirPods to create music or use Bluetooth headphones to create music. It is just much more difficult. You have to account for that delay. I've talked to people that have they got so good with the delay that they know that they have to sing half a second late, so they incorporate it in their production. For me, I can't do it. I need it to be happening straight away. So, yeah, thanks for the question. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. James Penman, can I export or share iPad GarageBand projects? Yeah, you absolutely can. In fact, I failed at it yesterday. I'm working with a very cool musician at the moment, and I sent a project to them, and they said, Peter, I can't open this, so I'm going to have to try again today. But yeah, there's a couple of ways that you can share your projects here in GarageBand. The easiest way is to actually share it using iCloud Drive. So anything that's saved here on your iCloud Drive, you can hit select, you can hit the song here, and you can hit share. And if you share the project file, did I miss the button? There you go. Share the project file. It'll pop up your little share sheet here, and you can actually share it with people. You can share the file in iCloud. So if you tap that button, it will make it a shared file, and then you can choose people. You can send them an email or a message, and you can actually share the same project. I talked with Sean and Patrick Chandler a couple of weeks ago. They use that process to do it. The other thing you can do is you can actually zip it up. So if you just saved it, if you have this, if you go into your Files app, make sure you go out of GarageBand and go into Files like this. Boom. Then you can actually save it here. So if we come out and go back to my iCloud Drive here, where we have these ones, so the in progress ones. So if I wanted to send this We Will Rise Together, which is what I did the other day with Emil, I could do this. Now I just shared with Emil, I just shared the song file. Oops, hang on, up. Forget that. I was still in the GarageBand land. If you're over here, if you wanted to share it as a compressed file, the problem is that the .band projects won't open or won't be shareable in things like Google Drive, Dropbox, etc. So what you need to do is select them, tap it there. Down in the bottom right here is a More button. You tap on that one and you compress. And this will actually create a zip file of that project. And once it's zipped up in a zip file, you can upload it and share it anywhere you like. So that's kind of my preferred method. Grab your whole GarageBand project, zip it up, and then this one we can go straight to Google Drive, to Dropbox, to OneDrive, to Box.net. There's a heap of different storage options you have there, or you can even copy it to a USB drive. And I've had a few requests for a new video showing all the backup and sharing options. So I'll be talking about it a little bit over the weekend on GarageBand Weekly. So definitely tune into that show if you want to find out a little bit. And then I'll do a complete refreshed video, because here in iOS 14, the Files app has changed just slightly. You'll notice we have a new option down here, new folder with items. So you can do that and it creates a brand new folder and puts that item in there, which is kind of cool if you want to organize things. So if I grabbed a whole bunch of items, I can actually automatically put them into a brand new folder and then name it, and then it will have that item in there. I don't want to do that though. I'll fix that later. I'm going to go, why did I do this? I always come back to these things and go, what was I thinking when I did that? Oh yeah, I was demoing something on a show. So yeah, you can, and it's quite simple to do. Yes, and Mark answers the question here. Yeah, you really can't. There is always a delay with Bluetooth. It hasn't reached the point where we've had zero latency. We probably will. We probably will in the future. I'm not saying that we won't, but for right now, the technology is still not quite there. It's still a thing. Hello, Cliff says, Cliff, I've got a Focusrite 2i2 plugged into an Anchor 7-in-1 power hub, then into an iPad Pro using a 65-watt wall charger, continually having issues getting power to the iPad. Any suggestions? So, any suggestions on that one? The method that I use is actually at the moment I'm using my Magic Keyboard. So I've got my iPad plugged in using the Magic Keyboard's power plug, and that's going directly into power. I must admit I have had some issues. If your powered hub only has data ports and doesn't have a separate charging port, that could be the issue that you're having. So the one that I use is the 10 DAC powered USB hub, and the beauty of this one is it actually has its own separate charging port. If I go to studiolivetoday.com/gear, which is my gear guide here online, and we'll bring up the screen here to show. There we go. So the one that I recommend here under powered USB hub is this one here. And the reason I use this is that it not only has the 4 ports for your gear, but if you look on the front here, it's also got this. It's also got a dedicated charging only port. And this is sending just power out. So what I have is I have my gear plugged in there, and then I can actually plug my iPad directly into that one. Now, I must admit with my iPad Pro, it's been a bit fiddly, and I've ended up just having a separate power out. So if your adapter that you're using, so if you're going straight in with an Anchor 7-port hub, I'm not sure exactly what you are using. Using a USB adapter as well, like a USB-C to USB adapter to put the Anchor port in there, or is it a USB-C port? But what I have is I have my it's actually a genuine Apple one that's plugged in here, which is the USB-C to USB, and that's actually got power pass through. So I make sure that that's plugged in, and then that just goes directly into the wall. So it means you have to have a separate wall plug for just your iPad. But I found, especially with the iPad Pro, different to the iPad Air that I used to have, which was a lot less fussy with power, the iPad Pros seem to soak up a lot more juice, and I've had to do something like that. But if you're still having trouble, what I'd recommend, Cliff, is jump over to the Create, Record, Release Facebook group. That's the official Facebook group of the Studio Live Today community, and there's a heap of people over there. And if you provide some photos of your setup, then we can help you troubleshoot it over there. So that's my recommendation for anyone. And if you're not on Facebook, there's some people in this community who have joined Facebook just to join those communities. You don't have to make a public profile. You don't have to share your photos. You don't have to watch cat videos. You don't have to do anything. All you need to do is create a profile, join the Create, Record, Release, and maybe the Garageband users Facebook groups, and then you can converse directly with a bunch of very cool people. And those are closed groups, which means nothing goes out publicly. No one ever need know that you're having fun and talking about it. Hey Pete, Steve Burns here. Me and Blue just got done playing Blue's Clues to figure out what Blue wants to ask you. And Blue wants to ask you, will you sing the So Long song with us? Oh, now can I remember the So Long song? I can't play it because I'll get a copyright strike. But I can almost remember. I can picture Steve and Blue. If people think that I was just going weird here, Blue's Clues is a children's TV show, Nickelodeon, from the 90s or early 2000s maybe, and it was very cool. So yes, and Blue talked like that, and Steve could understand. He's like, "What's that, Blue? You want me to follow the clues?" So there you go. So I can't remember to sing the So Long song, but there's my impression of Blue the dog. And yes, you may sample that and turn it into, this guy will probably do it. Russ, you can sample that and put it in your next song. I still haven't re-listened to that song, Russ. I'm sorry. I need to do that. Yeah, USB-C. Yeah, the USB-C, I still haven't got a perfect solve for the power, but I'm more than happy to share my setup, and maybe on GarageBand Users Weekly, I'll show that. But yeah, it can be trickier. The easiest way is to use an adapter that has USB power pass-through, USB-C power pass-through, and plug that directly into your actual iPad wall socket 65-watt daily charger. That's been my best thing. Hank Johnson says, "Hey Pete, can I fix phase shift issues?" Now, phasing is an interesting one, and it really depends on the sort of issues you're having. If it's a phase to do with like microphones, you're recording 2 microphones and they're out of phase with each other and you're getting phasing issues, it can be difficult. Usually the answer there is to go back and re-record it or try recording with 1 microphone. There are some phase shifting plugins. I'm trying to remember. Does Mixbox have one in iOS, in GarageBand? I can't remember now. If someone can help me out in the chat, What is a plugin that has phase shifting? I don't think the channel strip one that I'm thinking of actually does have it. Let's jump back into this one and have a quick look see. But basically what you want, if you just need to flip and invert the phase or invert the polarity, because those two terms are used kind of interchangeably, then you may be able to just grab a plugin that does that. And I can't off the top of my head remember which ones do. Does channel strip? Let's see. Bypass, mute. No, I thought this one had a phase switch, but it doesn't. But there's one that I'm thinking of, and maybe it's Mixbox that has phase. I can't remember now. If someone can remember, I'll try and find it after the show. But if someone can remember which one it is that actually has the phase button. But yeah, that's what I would do. Get a plugin and try that. Is it Mixbox that has a phase switcher? Embiggen it. Doesn't seem to, does it? Not built in here. Maybe it does. Maybe it does in one of the actual plugs here. Not sure. So yeah, there's an option for. Actually, I think it was. Hang on. Before we go, because I haven't used Mixbox for a couple of weeks. Actually, I really need to get back into it. Channel strip. Let's just go to the standard channel strip. No, it's not that one either. I can't remember. Someone will help us out in the chat here, I'm sure. But that's a. But yeah, phase issues can be a pain in the butt, and usually it comes down to getting it right at the source and trying to record without picking up those phase issues to begin with. Can you please tell me by using acapella how to insert my own beat in GarageBand? Have you done a tutorial on it? I haven't. Now acapella, I haven't used this in a while. This is sort of the video creation app, isn't it? Let's just go over here. I did have it at one point. I'm just going to try and find it. Bear with me. Bear with. It's called acapella. Yeah, acapella. It's this one here. Acapella from Pick, Play, Post, and it's the one where you can do this sort of business, where you create your own like video of yourself, and you can sing and create, and you can collaborate, and you can do various pictures of yourself. You basically sing in a thing and then re-sing it in and then re-sing it in. I'm probably overdue to play around with it. It is a cool app, and I have used it before. I'll just come in here and take a quick squiz at it. If you've never used it before, yeah, welcome. Oh, I have signed in. I hate having to sign into everything. But yeah, you can see the sort of things that you can do here. You can do your own little acapella things. I'm not sure if there's an export function. If there's an export function on acapella, then all you need to do is export the audio and import it into GarageBand. And I've got a heap of videos. If you search my name, Pete Johns Import Audio, there's about 4 or 5 videos that I show all the different ways to import audio. Basically, as soon as you can save it out as a WAV file or an M4A or MP3 on your iPad or iPhone, then you can just import that file directly into GarageBand. So any apps that allow exporting, then you can import it directly into GarageBand. Especially if it's your own work and it doesn't have any copyrighted stuff, then you should be 100% cool to do it. Saga says in BandLab you can correct the delay. This is for your Bluetooth. But yeah, in GarageBand I don't think you can. Yeah, exactly. Sorry, Annie G. Don't mean to make you any more nervous. Question. I have an iPad Pro that has the mini jack in. I'd like to upgrade the iPad, but the new ones don't have a mini jack. Will I experience any more latency with the Lightning port? Short answer is yes, because you'll experience at least some latency. Headphone jack is actually pretty good in that it is a very dumb analog signal, which means it's simply just taking well, it's still doing digital to analog conversion, but it tends to do it pretty quickly. Every audio signal, every audio source is going to have some level of latency. There really isn't, unless you're like literally playing a guitar next to your ear, that's kind of the only example of zero latency, but you'll often get some sort of lag or delay. The good interfaces via Lightning have low latency. So I use the iRig Pro IO. That's a really good interface, and that has very low latency. I've never had a problem singing or playing guitar using that. And my sort of big setup here in the studio is the Steinberg UR22C, plugged in via the Lightning to USB 3 adapter, and then through my 10 DAC powered hub that I showed before, and that has very low latency as well. The other thing you can do is a lot of interfaces like the Steinberg have a latency free, like a zero latency monitoring option where it won't monitor through your software, it'll monitor directly back through the interface. It means that you won't get processing, so delay and reverb and chorus and that sort of thing on your signal, but it will mean that you get to hear it back straight away. The other thing with that that, though, is that there are some, like the Steinberg UR series, that have an app that has DSP, digital signal processing, that actually processes inside the box, meaning that you can add some basic effects. So if you're singing and you want to hear a little bit of reverb, you can actually set that app and do that. I haven't covered it here on the channel. I totally should, because it's one of the selling points of the Steinberg interface. But yeah, I think you'll find that, yeah, if you experiment with it, and you will get better quality sound. The quality increase you get going digital, something via Lightning or USB, is going to be substantially better than any challenge you may have with latency. That would be my view anyway. Does anyone have any tips for getting discovered an artist early on? No, patience, unfortunately. Check out Damien Keys. I don't focus on this stuff here on this channel in terms of like artist discovery and promotion and that sort of thing. Not too much anyway. I just think that the best thing to do is to have two-way engagement with communication in communities, like-minded people doing the same stuff you are. That really helps. And then just keep creating, recording, and releasing more music. The whole idea that you're going to create your very first song is probably going to be your worst song. And you just have to kind of deal with that. But the thing is, the beautiful part, the positive of that is your next song is going to be better and then better and then better. I don't know too many people that have been doing this for 2 years and the songs they're creating now are worse than the songs that they created at the start. Usually experience actually helps, but patience is a key. And unfortunately, because music is now accessible to everyone, So it does increase the accessibility, but it also kind of floods and saturates the market. For those that want to push through and shine, it can be a little more challenging. But Damien Keys, Keyes, is the man when it comes to actual promotion of your music. Yeah, and get involved. Facebook groups, get involved in forums, go to live streams like this. That's good first steps. That's the sort of things that you need to do. Sorry to ask as many questions. That's what we're here for. But would you recommend learning how to drum on a drum set or finger drums? I mean, a drum set if you can. Use what you got though. Like use your iPhone or your iPad screen. You'll learn the fundamentals of drumming. You'll learn what you can and can't do and what sounds good and what doesn't. If you can then get yourself an actual drum kit, that is a good thing to do. Absolutely. I can't type and talk at the same time either. I struggle to do this. I'm scrolling through trying to read things, and yeah, as you can hear, I go off track like that because then I see Kev Hart saying, "Did somebody say power chord?" Yeah, power chord for the win. Scrolling down. So on the guitar stuff, Kim said I started with an electric because I love Nirvana, but also because the action is low. Absolutely. It can be a lot easier to play an electric, especially one with a low action, which just means that you don't have to push down on the strings as much and as hard, and it's good for your fingers when you're learning. You don't have the big, wrangly, calloused fingers of a guitar player. Saga says, question, made a track with Alchemy synth, sound was awesome on headphones, exported as WAV high quality, 44 kilohertz in Google Drive, the exported track doesn't sound like the original file at all, ... Do we have, is that just a dun dun dun, or do we have a, or is there more to that? Yeah, so I don't know if you saw a recent video I did. Usually, not always, but usually the problem with something like this is related to your volumes. I think it was just 2 days ago I talked about this, but GarageBand doesn't help you, especially with things like Alchemy Synths. Let's come in here and throw an Alchemy Synth on here. Let's create a quick loop here with some Alchemy Synth. So we'll come in here, the Epic Cloud Formation. Let's just hit record and just play this. Now, I don't really want the other sounds there because we're actually going to add in a beat. So if we add the Alchemy synth there, and then we, let's just bring in a drum loop, shall we? We've got the jazz hustle flute. I was playing around with that and searching for that jazz hustle flute the other day. But if we want to just go, let's just find like a big festival kick drum or something to put in here that's going to be nice and loud. Big room kick. Yep. This is going to help demonstrate this. Big room kick in there. So that's going to make it nice and loud there. And then let's just get another synth. Let's go with a synth bass here in Alchemy, shall we? So Alchemy synth. We're going to go with the bass. And we'll go with an 808 because of course we will. We'll hit the record button here. 2, 3. Again, I don't really need to do all of this stuff, but hey, you know when you start creating music and you're just having fun? Yeah, that. So we'll come here in the Alchemy synth and let's just go with like a nice aggressive lead sound. So something like 80s synth lead. That's nice and loud. Ready? So we've created this nice little beat here. Here's the problem though. GarageBand defaults all your volumes to here, which is okay with one thing. So if we were just playing this, take a look at what we have going on here. We're only at like the halfway mark there, yeah? That's okay, no problem. If we take this kick by itself, then we're only at the halfway mark here, but let's bring them together. Can you see how much the amplitude increases of our volume just with those two things? Let's bring in our pad and now take a look. And then let's bring in the 808 and... Can you see how quickly with just 4 tracks we're starting to peak out and clip our meter up here? So here's the thing. Don't use GarageBand's default here because you'll be listening in your headphones saying, that sounds cool, man. This is the most lit fire beat ever. But turn it down. Honestly, if you turn it down and you get everything down here, as you're building out your track, you're going to find your overall volume is going to be much better. Because even though when you play it now, you might be thinking, Pete, that's wussy. The key is it's not going to be clipping. So when you export this, if it's sitting between 50 and 70% on that top meter, it means that it's not going to be clipping and therefore it's not going to limit it. And the main problem I see with people exporting songs in GarageBand is that they've got it all the way up. They've got everything up to 11. And I'm not saying you're doing exactly this, but even if it's just a little bit loud and you've got something like this going on, when you export that, every time it's hitting that 0 dB, it's actually doing some automatic limiting there on your track. So that means that when you export it, you're going to get some pumping sound, you're going to get some digital artifacts. It's going to sound a lot worse than if you just turned down your volumes. So hopefully that helps you and anyone else who is having trouble with their exports not sounding as good as they should. Because sometimes, yeah, you spend all this time on a track and then you export it and it's not so good. The same problem has happened again here today. We have 8 minutes left, and I've still got a heap of questions on here. So if you have questions, guess what? We'll throw this question up here so I know where I'm up to. You can actually go over to studiolivetoday.com/QA. Let me just quickly show you where that is, because if your question doesn't get answered here, I promise I'll be here as long as I need to do all of the questions. So if you go to studiolivetoday.com/QA, you'll jump into this form here. All you need to do is put your name and your question there. Oh, why did the name field doesn't say name anymore? I will fix that and it should hopefully say name there. But just put your name and your question there. Hit the submit button, that goes into the queue. You know what? I'm not showing my screen. This is what it looks like. You can put your name and your question and hit the submit button, and that will come straight through to me, and I will answer those questions on my home studio Q&A. We have another hour of Q&A on Saturday afternoon or evening for most of you, Sunday morning here in Australia. So this time in 2 days' time, we'll be back again to do more questions. So please, if we don't get to your question today, I apologize. Jump in there. Question here, how many tracks max can you use in GarageBand? Can you compensate with merge tracks, and can you unmerge tracks? Really good questions, really good points. 32 is the short answer. So you've got 32 tracks to work with here in GarageBand. So at the moment we've got 8, 9 tracks in this project. You can go up to 32 tracks. Yes, you can merge tracks down, but you can't unmerge tracks. Here's a little tip though. What you can actually copy and paste tracks between projects. So let's just say I'm running out of tracks here. Pete, you're running out of tracks here. And I want to merge down these 4. Now, I wouldn't merge down these 4, but pretend they're like all backing vocals. And I'm pretty sure I want to just merge these down and use these. Well, what I can do is I can actually create a bit of a backup file here. So if we come in, we'll just name this one demo. That's what, oh God, now I've lost it. We're going to have to sort this by... Oh man, see, I should have thought this through before I named it. We want to sort it by date. There we go. So demo's there. So what I would do is I would actually duplicate out a copy of this. So then we've got demo 2. So this will just keep in these ones. I won't touch this one, and I'll just sort of rename this. I won't do it here now, but I'd tap on that one and rename it like individual tracks for bit. And then when you come in here and you do your merging, so we tap this and we hit merge, and we're like, yeah, we want to save some tracks, so we're going to merge these 4 together and hit the merge button. Then you always know you've got those saved in that second project ready to go. You can also copy directly. So again, if we wanted to do something similar, and we wanted to copy these bits out here, we can actually roll over them like that, tap them, tap again, hit copy, and if we go back to our other project now, just assume they weren't already in there, we can just tap down into some blank space here and paste them in, and check it out. It'll actually add those back in here. Now you have to be careful where your playhead is. You can see there I didn't put it right at the start. So if we come down here, tap, paste, boom. So there. So you can actually copy and paste tracks between projects. So I would keep yourself a backup project that just has the raw tracks when you're merging, because even though you can only have 32, you can see what I'm doing here, yeah? You can basically use 2 or 3 projects to kind of store backup copies of those original tracks. So if you merge down and then you get to your final mix and you're like, I really hate that additional sound in there, you can go back to that kind of that borrowing ground and pull the tracks back into your main project. So that should probably go in my list of things to do. I'm going to put it in there right now. In fact, every time I do something like this on one of these shows, it goes into my list of videos to do in the future, because that's one that I do get asked about a lot, and that's probably a pretty cool way that people probably haven't thought about if you're trying to add extra tracks and you're getting to that 32 track point and you can't have any more. So I'm just going to throw this in here. So this is add more than 32 tracks, and that is copy and paste between. There you go. Thank you for your question. And you've just helped some more content and a new video happen here on Studio Live today. Kyle TV, what would your best advice for a beginner or intermediate guitarist? I've been a guitar player for 6 years. I'd like to hear your advice because you've been playing for much longer than me. I'm the bad person to say this because I was not formally trained in guitar, but practicing is what's helped me. I've practiced a whole heap, and the more you practice, the better you get, basically. Listen to other people too. Get people to critique your guitar playing. I've learned a lot lately from Bubba, who's one of our moderators here on the channel, because he'll watch me play, and he's been giving me some good tips around some exercises to do, some different sort of chord phrasings that I could try out, and that's been really helping me develop and improve. But nothing can beat practice, to be honest, and the more you practice regularly, and the thing with guitar is you want to get your calluses and you want to get your muscle memory built up. So if you can practice even 10 minutes a day, I know we're all busy, but even if you've got 10 minutes a day to practice, it's better to do 10 minutes a day than 1 2 hour session once a week, in my view, because you just get that repetition going on, and it can work well for you. So hopefully that helps you out. 3 minutes left, folks. Cool Music Tech evening to you, evening to everyone. And as Andy says, another thing is jam with other guitarists. Exactly. Learn from other people that may have the ability to do that. G. David says, hey Peter, love your content. Thank you. Quick question. I'm about to buy a home studio equipment, all my gear, and I was super confident. I suddenly felt so scared that people will never like my work. We might finish on this one because I'm just going to run out of time, so I really apologize to anyone else. Again, if you've got questions, put them in the form for home studio Q&A on Saturday. But yeah, if you're starting out, this is super common. There's a couple of things you can do. Number one is start creating now with whatever gear you have. Got a smartphone, got an iPad, start creating with that gear. You don't need to kit out your whole studio straight away either. So maybe you start with your audio interface and a microphone, and then maybe you go to a MIDI keyboard in the future, and then you get a pair of headphones. Then you buy some monitor speakers, and then you build it out from there. So you can go piece by piece with your audio gear and setting up your studio. In terms of the confidence, there's a couple of things here. Number one, if no one likes your work, well, if you do, then you've already won. So if it makes you happy to produce music and you get to listen, there is nothing better than finishing a song, because if you don't like your own music enough to listen to it, then maybe then you've got problems. But yeah, if you dig what you're doing and you like your music, getting all choked up. If you like the music you're producing and you're having fun with it, then that's a good thing. And the other thing is, you'll be surprised at who does actually like your music. And if not everyone likes it, well, guess what? You're not going to please everyone. In fact, the fastest way to please no one is to try and please everyone. So just work on one step at a time. I say a couple of things when it comes to this. everyone starts at zero. So everyone, when they're creating their first song, hasn't done anything. Think of the best artists in the world. Think of your favorite musicians. They started at zero too. And when you don't know where to start and you're starting to get overwhelmed, just start. Just do exactly what I did there. If you've got an iPhone or an iPad and you've got GarageBand, just start bringing loops in, bring in sounds. Just start experimenting and playing and having fun. You'll find that you'll have an absolute blast and it will be a good time. We are going to have to finish up there again. I know I tried to do this to catch up on all the questions, and I got to, again, about halfway through what I can do. Yes, Rob, the cube has moved from the sofa. It's right there. So it's still right there. So it's still on the sofa. But we'll be using that over the weekend. So we'll be talking about it. And Kim says here, yep, do it anyway. Don't listen to your fears and never give up. Yep, create, record, release, repeat. Absolutely. Love it. Right, we're going to have to head off now, but if you want to hear some more, you need to do this. Next up, in about 30 seconds' time. See, not even time to go get a cup of coffee. Well, I'm going to anyway, but I'll throw my headphones and go listen. Catch up with the How To App show, and it's Jade's interview series. Today she's chatting with Auntie G, so come and join her and Auntie G over there on Jade's channel in about 30 seconds from now. Thanks everyone for being here. Thanks so much for all of your questions. Once again, apologies we didn't get to them all, but once again, if you do have questions we didn't answer today, drop them in the comments of this video or jump over to studiolivetoday.com/QA and I'll see you for that. Don't forget Your Music Live at this time tomorrow, showcasing some of the best independent artists from all across the world. Always a lot of fun. Do join that one and join the mailing list to keep up to date with everything you need. All of that's over at studiolivetoday.com. Thanks everyone. As we say at the end of every show, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, keep creating, and